Hey, what's going on, y'all? Sean here. Hope y'all doing well on this Monday. I typically take off during the week. I mean, during the weekend because a brother like to get some rest. But hopefully everything's going well with you. I want to talk a little bit today. Well, before I do, remember that Transform Your Physical Health Live is where I answer your health and fitness related questions based on my experience as a personal trainer and just my own experience training my own body, calisthenics and other fitness type, exercise, strength training type stuff. Um, Eating well and life's just healthy lifestyle is really what I like to talk about. So if you have a question related to anything like that, then hop on and put it in the chat and let's talk about it. The one thing I want to talk about, well, what I do want to talk about today is this trend of heart attacks and strokes in young people. And when I talk about young people, I'm talking about people typically who are in like their 20s, 30s, um, you know, and perhaps even 40s. And that is, I guess, considered young mainly because heart attacks and whatnot were things that were probably when I was a kid associated with people in their older age, you know, like maybe 60s or something like that. But now you see heart attacks in people who are quite young. Again, people who be in their 30s, like I am, 40s. I haven't heard much about 20s, but I guess it's happening too. I do think about how you have these various things in the news with people who are having other cardiac events. I don't know if they would kind of link these together. But anyhow, what's going on? What's going on here? It's obviously troubling. It to me, it clearly shows once again that something is not right. Something is not happening right. When you're a kid and then you maybe heard about a couple of older people having heart attacks or whatever, then you come of age, you become an adult, and you start to hear people in your age group. It's like, hold on, did I miss something? Was this something that was happening when I was a kid? It's like not like it is now. So we're obviously moving in the wrong direction. I have a couple of articles that I came across this morning that I was going to pull from. This first article I was going to pull from. This first article was talking about um, strokes in young people, primarily between the ages of 18 and 44. I think is what it was. I think it's what it was. I didn't copy that. I will link to this in the comments. Um, but yeah, strokes raising in people between the ages of 18 and 44 years old. Now, if you don't know what a stroke is basically when blood supply to a part of the brain gets blocked. And that's really bad news. That can immediately start to cause tissue death and whatnot. And you know, and the s- some sometimes the effects of a stroke can be like fatal or extremely debilitating. And sometimes people can recover pretty well from them, with little to no issue. But strokes tend to be really bad news. And so to be young and having a stroke is like, again, what is this pointing to with us as a society? What is it pointing to? I recorded a video yesterday. I don't necessarily always do a video on Sunday, but I recorded a video yesterday talking about all this candy and stuff that my kids get. I still had a bag right here, like all this candy that they get from school and stuff. And that really seems to be a lot of the issue. Let me read this and then I'll kind of explain. So from the article I got here, again, links in the description. The good news, this is a quote from that article. The good news is that the best way to reduce your risk of stroke is also the best way to reduce your risk for a whole host of health problems. Eat a healthy diet, move your body, and don't smoke. They say in the article, the bad news is that it's not always so easy to sustain. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that. But anyhow, one of the things that they talked about is and let me pull up the article here because I actually do have the article open. Because typically, what I do is I'll copy points from the articles that I kind of want to point out to you guys, but I don't do all of them, of course. But anyhow, so they recommend Mediterranean diet. A lot of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, olive oil. I will say Mediterranean diet is great, but a lot of times that's kind of thrown out as like the diet, but like it doesn't really have to be like that. There's other types of ways of eating that I think typically healthy eating kind of tends to kind of like revolve around certain kind of themes. And we typically use the Mediterranean diet as like a model diet, but it's not the only healthy way to eat. Okay. Typically a lot of the healthy ways to eat tend to be like the ways of eating that are not like uh highly like westernized, like a whole lot of processed food and a lot of stuff that we have in our more modern societies and whatnot. So but anyhow, listen to what it says. Eating healthy can help control several factors that increase your risk for stroke, including high cholesterol, high blood sugar, and obesity, according to the Heart Association. I guess that's the American Heart Association. Now, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, and obesity. Now, what I've learned since I've been researching this stuff for like many, many years now is that all three of those things, now, obviously, high blood sugar will fall under this category. But high cholesterol, high blood sugar, and obesity all come under the umbrella of high sugar consumption. All of them do, even the cholesterol part. And so that was something I learned probably within the past 5 to 10 years. And it surprised me because what happens is, and I don't remember all the ins and outs, but it's these things called triglycerides. And triglycerides, I don't want to quote and then end up messing up like all the science behind it, but you should look them up. You should look them up. We tend to have an increase in triglycerides even based on our sugar consumption. And some kind of way they kind of bind together and form like the sugars help to form triglycerides and our triglycerides go up and that's somehow linked to cholesterol. But really all I'm saying is high cholesterol, high blood sugar, and obesity are all connected to the same issue, which is a lot of sugar consumption. And I was talking to a friend of mine one time and he was talking about how he went to the doctor and he had a lot of he had high cholesterol and he said he was I think he was taking cholesterol medication and stuff like that and it still wasn't really budging and I know I mean he wasn't particularly like oh he wasn't obese or anything like that um and he ran sometimes and but the thing is though being in the office setting that we were in as engineers and whatnot somebody always got donuts, somebody always got candy or something like that somewhere. And I know he would kind of eat that stuff pretty frequently. And so I explained that to him, and he heard me, but I think he kind of dismissed it a bit. And so, but yeah, look it up, look it up. I'm sure I recorded a video where I talked a little bit more about this, and if I remember, I'll try to link to that too. So that's why I wanted to mention this big old bag of candy that my kids have here, because once again, we're seeing this trend of strokes in young people, 18 to 44. Then my kids go to school and they get candy almost every day, at least 2 or 3 days a week. My one of my daughters is giving me like some candy that they got because they know, when they get that stuff to give the candy to us. But like, think about that, man. It's like because the connection is not being made. I'm not looking at it as some sort of nefarious thing per se, but like it's like we're just continuing to set the stage for like more young people to get strokes and stuff like that. So anyway, it don't make sense, man. Um, so listen to this. So like I said, that last sentence from what I read in this article, it said that the bad news is that it being changing like your lifestyle stuff, like to healthier lifestyle practices. It said it's not easy, always so easy to sustain. Dr. Sean Duke, a stroke doctor at the University of Mississippi Medical Center, blames the forces in society that keep people sedentary and eating poorly, like cell phones and cheap, unhealthy food. Our world is stacked against us, he said. Very true. Very, very true. It's true. It is stacked against us. That's why I always stress like my whole saying that your doctor's not responsible for your health. You are. Because the thing is, as much as we would like for everything, all of the structures and the systems around us to be working in our favor, for people to kind of give us these options and they're all healthy options where we don't have to think about whatever stuff, it's not like that. But even if it was like that, the thing that we always have to understand is that you and I were created as autonomous human beings. Like God gave us autonomy over ourselves. So there's always still that ability to choose for ourselves what we're going to do. And of course, especially in a society like ours, that is very important that we exercise that ability. Because otherwise, what happens is when you eat all this sugar like this, and that's causing high cholesterol, high levels of obesity, where three-quarters of our population is overweight or obese, high blood sugar, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. When you have this kind of stuff, the sugar itself is addictive. It's addictive. It's addictive. It's just somehow an acceptable addiction. And so if we don't use our ability to choose, then what happens is then we're just kind of giving away to all of that stuff. We're bound by the sugar. We're bound by stuff like everybody else is because these things are addictive and everything is kind of more so bent toward convenience and what feels good, what tastes good. And when you go down that route, then we end up becoming a statistic, just like all these other statistics that that are put out there about lifestyle caused diseases, high blood pressure, stroke, heart disease, heart attack, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, it is stacked against us. Our world is stacked against us. Society is stacked against us. It's just a fact. But that's even more of a reason for you and I to really start to exercise our control and just take a stand like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make these choices for my health. I'm gonna do at least my very best to take care of my body. I'm not saying I don't occasionally get a piece of candy and stuff like that. But my point is, we're in a society now where we've been conditioned that it's not an occasional thing. It's just not. And that stuff is everywhere now. I often talk about how up the street from where I live, there's a main road and it's just fast food restaurant at the fast food restaurant. We used to have like four different chicken places, like all kind of within the same, like in the same area, churches, Popeyes, KFC, um, well, Bojangles was down the road, but all these places that are right here, and that's not even mentioning all the other burger joints and et cetera, and so on and so forth, convenience stores, all this junk, all here, and we don't really have on my side of town a lot of healthy choices, and you have to go just a little bit further downtown, but I digress. They say getting up and walking for at least 10 minutes a day can drastically reduce your risk. Getting up and walking for for at least um okay, I see your comment. Right, exactly. Yeah, fried okra or canned green beans or like fries or something like that. So yeah, this says getting up and walking around for at least 10 minutes a day can drastically reduce your risk. And so think about that. Now, I think it's the American College of Sports Medicine that says that if you want to, they say you should be getting at least 150 minutes of exercise a week. So that's 30 minutes 5 times a week or 50 minutes 3 times a week. They say you should be getting 150 minutes a week. 10 minutes a day is if you take every day, that's 70 minutes a week. So that's half of that approximately. So just 10 minutes a day for the sedentary person can drastically decrease your risk for stroke. Just 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. Now, That is an absolute bare minimum because I would definitely encourage you to do more than that. But that is something. That's a starting point. And the thing is, I think for a lot of people, this would drastically reduce your risk because people aren't really doing much of anything. But hey, get out there, get started. But that's a starting point. Even that start, getting your blood flowing through your body, even something as small as that can drastically decrease your risk for stroke. Okay. Now, another thing I talk about very briefly, since it's kind of along the same vein, it just has to do with the heart instead of the brain, is heart attacks in young people. You know, as we talked about, they're definitely increasing. You hear about it more in the news and whatnot. The article that I'm referencing here from Cedar Sinai says this, and I quote: "Although heart attacks in people 18 to 44 are rare, they have increased more than 66% since 2019. Since like over the past 5 years, heart attacks in young people aged from 18 to 44 years of age, have increased more than 66%. That's huge. That's a lot of increase there. And it says in particular, this is affecting women more. Heart attacks are spiking among women ages 35 to 54. And another reason why this is kind of like a particular, it's a very interesting, for lack of better words, situation here with the fact that young women are being impacted more is because for a long time we've looked at heart attacks and whatnot as being kind of like presenting themselves a certain way, because people have mostly looked at the way they affect men. But it turns out, as some of you may know, that heart attacks actually affect women sometimes differently. So sometimes people miss heart attacks in women. So I'm saying all of this to say, when you have this kind of situation where society is pushing out strokes and heart attacks in younger and younger groups, we're not even talking about the high levels of obesity and whatnot and other diseases. Heart attacks and strokes, which both are potentially fatal health situations, when those are happening at younger and younger rates, we're not decreasing. That means that something is very wrong. It's very wrong. And I don't know how to emphasize that more. This is very wrong. What you and I need to do is really, really buckle down and decide, I don't want this for my life. I don't want this for my family. If I'm not active, I'm gonna start being active. I'm gonna start with 5 or 10 minutes a day of walking. I am gonna progress, but I'm not gonna worry about progressing at this moment. I'm going to just start somewhere and make sure I'm getting up every day. Even if, especially if I can incorporate that naturally into my lifestyle, I'm going to do that because my body was not made to be still. It wasn't made to be still for long periods of time. It was made to move. That's why it happens that walking and moving is so beneficial. Some people call walking, or not walking, but exercise in general, like the fountain of youth, if there is any. I'm going to put mostly good fuel into my system. Mostly. I'm going to put mostly good fuel into my system. You know, Obviously, this holiday season, yes, I'm going to enjoy a couple of things. I'm still going to get my vegetables in now. Don't get me wrong now. I'm definitely getting my vegetables in. I might have a piece of cake here and there and, you know, some meatballs. Now, of course, we're going to make those. We're not going to get those frozen kinds with all the additives and whatnot, but, different kind of like fun foods and whatnot. But I'm going to have mostly good fuel put into my body. I'm going to occasionally fast. One, so I can let my body clean out, and also so I can allow myself to so I can kind of like break any cravings that are trying to like rise up and kind of take over. I'm going to get my rest. I'm going to not eat late. All these different kind of things. So anyway, y'all, kind of a almost turned into like a rant, or just kind of going on and on a bit. Please, y'all, let's do what we can do. That's the whole reason I had this channel. I just want to encourage you, do what you can do to take care of yourself. Yes, you know, doctor's visits and all those kind of things. But the thing is, truly preventative work starts with you. Truly preventative work on your health and whatnot. It starts with you. It starts with you giving yourself the right inputs. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and move on to something. I hope y'all have a great day. Let me know what you think about these heart attacks and strokes in younger people.